Meanwhile, under the floorboards, how did Kamikaze escape and Hiccup escape from the box and the rope? Well, it wasn't quite the miracle that the watching dragon markers and Alvensaman thought it was. Let's go back to earlier on, under the floorboards of the floating city, where a terrified Hiccup had whispered, "Plan B, Plan B!" down to Fishlegs and slammed down the hatch, leaving Fishlegs sitting on the upturned hull of a boat in the darkness with 6 dragons: the Deadly Shadow, Stormfly, the Hogfly, Windwalker, the Hurricane, and Wodenfang. "Oh, for God's sake," moaned Fishlegs. "Plan B! Plan B means that the lost things aren't there." The ears of the Wodenfang were bright purple and quivering as if electric currents were running through them, which was always a sign that terrible peril was near. "I told," Hiccup wheezed Wodenfang. "I've seen the lost things in my dreams. They're underwater somewhere. But I admire Hiccup's courage and trusting Snotlat. It's just a shame." Fishlegs swallowed and finished the sentence for him. "It's just a shame that Snotlat has betrayed him again." As if to confirm this, Snotlat's Hurricane dragons took off from the submerged boat and flew off. "Where's he going?" asked Fishlegs. Then he answered his own question. He must be joining his treacherous master. This is fine," said Fishlegs to himself. "I'm on my own here, but it's fine." He was trying not to panic. His asthma often got worse in times of stress. Luckily, Deadly Shadows give off a calming, that lovely hormone in their smoke when they are in action. An action situation, and breathing in the milky clouds of steam drifting out of the 3 heads of the gentle giant beneath him gave Fishlegs the strength to remain calm and to focus. Fishlegs pushed his broken glasses more firmly onto his nose. He did not want to look like a coward in front of his mother's dragon. If his mother could be brave, then so could he. "Okay," said Fishlegs, making himself think reasonably. "According to Plan B, we now have to surreptitiously rescue Hiccup. But how do we rescue him if we have no idea where he is?" 200 yards away, a hatch opened in the long platform of the ceiling above them, letting a brilliant shaft of light down into the dark sea. The sound of the shouting and the stamping of the feet became so loud, Fishlegs shrank behind the Deadly Shadow's back spines for fear they had been discovered. "Hiccup, Hiccup, Hiccup, Hiccup!" And then the witch's voice, clear and loud. "Lower him through the trapdoor!" Something was dumped through the trapdoor and into the sea. With horror, Fishlegs recognised Hiccup's helmet. "Okay," said Fishlegs. "There he is. That's Hiccup. Let's rescue him." Windwalker had left Fishlegs' side before Fishlegs had even speaking, flying towards the spot where Hiccup had been dumped. In 2 flaps of his wings, Fishlegs could see from the bubbles that Windwalker had reached Hiccup underwater, closely followed by Wodenfang, Stormfly, and the Hogfly. Fishlegs hovered near the spot at the back of the Deadly Shadow. "Get him up! What are you guys doing?" he whispered desperately from the shadows. "Why aren't you getting him out of there? There are Winterfleshes down there and everything." He could see the quick black silhouettes of the heavily fanged Winterfleshes being chased hither and thither underwater by the hunting dragons. The Alvensaman pulled on the chain again. It drew taut, and up the blue dripping figure of Hiccup was hauled, and Fishlegs watched, open-mouthed. Splash! Up rocketed Wodenfang out of the water. "Why didn't you rescue him?" whispered an agitated Fishlegs. "He didn't want us to," replied Wodenfang. "He kept on pointing up towards the great hall. I think he doesn't want us to rescue him until he can get Kamikaze out too." "Oh, thank Thor," breathed Fishlegs. "So Kamikaze is alive." "We're just trying to keep him warm and alive," continued Wodenfang, "and scare away the Winterfleshes. Windwalker is blowing air into him so he doesn't drown." Splash! Down Hiccup was thrown again, and Fishlegs could see the large shadow of the Windwalker flying underwater like a giant ray. Look there, it's Kamikaze. The sea sending the little dark slivers of the Winterfleshes shooting off in all directions in alarm. Again and again, Hiccup was hauled back up through the trapdoor. Again and again, he was thrown into the sea, and each time he was left underwater for longer and longer. "Oh, what should I do? Fishlegs whimpered to himself. "This can't be good for him. Plan B was always overambitious. How on earth is Hiccup going to rescue Kamikaze when he's all tied up in chains and everything?" Fishlegs' question was answered when splash! The large box crashed into the water. This time Windwalker attacked the box, and to Fishlegs' passionate relief, Kamikaze came gasping to the surface. We're showing you this picture because I love that picture. The sea could not hold her. Look at her face. She is bigger than the sea. Ooh, I love Kamikaze. reached out an arm to pick her out, and she climbed up behind him on the deadly shadow and sat shivering on the dragon's warm back, steaming lightly. The fourth time, when Hiccup dived through the trapdoor by himself, the Windwalker changed tactics. Kamikaze was safe, so it was time to rescue Hiccup now. Windwalker got a good grip on Hiccup's collar under the water like a cat holding a kitten, and hauled with all his strength on the chain attached around Hiccup's ankle, the one that Alvin and the Alvin's men were holding on at the other end. That was the mystical tug-of-war that had so impressed the Alvin's men and the dragon markers in the Great Hall. With a final heave, the chain broke, and with smooth, powerful strokes of his wings, Windwalker brought Hiccup gasping to the surface and deposited him on the boat beside Kamikaze. Thank you, Kamikaze, says Hiccup. I told you, said Hiccup to Kamikaze, I would never turn my back on you again. Hiccup grinned. Windwalker, Hardfly, Windfang and I will find Toothless and the lost things. Fishlegs and Kamikaze and the others cause a diversion. That's going to be Kamikaze's forte. She's very good at that. He had barely finished the sentence before Windwalker flew off, carrying Hiccup like a limp doll in his mouth, with Windfang and the Hogfly anxiously following. Excellent news, said Kamikaze joyfully. Apart from burgling and escaping from impossible prisons and possibly surfing on Dragonback, diversions are a punk burglar's favourite thing, I told you. She sat back on the deadly shadow, unpacked her backpack and put on a large blonde moustache. Kamikaze, said Fishlegs, no one is going to mistake you for a very small Alvinsman. Kamikaze ignored him. Now, she said, holding up a finger, we're going to have to be a little bit careful because I reckon there must be thousands and thousands of bull guards and Alvinsmen up there. And there are 4 of us, bleated Fishlegs. 6, corrected Kamikaze optimistically. Your deadly shadow counts as 3, which is why I will need my super dangerous secret weapon. Now, where did I put it? Kamikaze rummaged away at the bottom of her escape artist backpack, pulling out ropes and keys and all sorts of extraordinary equipment. You have a super dangerous secret weapon? Fishlegs clutched at the faint hope of what a super dangerous secret weapon offered. Ideas of battering rams and spear launches and those gigantic Roman catapults swam into his head and made him feel a little bit braver. But no, it would have been hard to fit a battering ram into that teeny-weeny little backpack. Kamikaze whooped in triumph as she finally located the super dangerous secret weapon and held it up so that Fishlegs could see it. There was a short silence. Kamikaze, said Fishlegs, the 6 of us are about to face Alvin's entire heavily armed army, and that is a small glass jar filled with pebbles. It was indeed a small glass jar filled with pebbles. Small, grey, very normal-looking pebbles. Ah, yes, said Kamikaze craftily, but these are no ordinary pebbles. My mother burgled them off a Chinese ship she raided when she was out east a while back, and I sort of borrowed them. Trust me, Fishlegs, these things are quite something. Oh, yes, said Fishlegs sarcastically. Those little pebbly souvenirs. I love that with her star. Those little pebbly souvenirs that your mother got on her holidays are really going to make the difference. Now we are a little outnumbered, I have to admit, said Kamikaze, frowning and pulling out her lassos and her ropes and borrowing some of Fishlegs' bow and arrows. So we have to seem like there are more of us. We need to make those rotten, haddock, stinking, twisted, evil Alvinsmen think they are being attacked by Valhalla-Arma's whole Dragonmarker army. Can I borrow your helmet a second, Fishlegs? Without waiting for an answer, Kamikaze whipped it off his head. Watch this, Fishlegs. I think you're going to like it. Who do you think this is, then? Kamikaze sang the Valhalla national anthem into Hiccup Fishlegs' helmet in an uncanny impression of Valhalla-Arma's booming, magnificent tones. The helmet gave her voice the necessary deep, echoing quality. Up with your sword and strike up the gale. Ride the rough seas, for those ways are your home. Fishlegs looked at her with his mouth hanging open. You sound exactly like Valhalla-Arma. Good, isn't it? Grinned Kamikaze. I've been practising for ages. Winters may freeze, but our hearts do not fail. Yes, it's great, Kamikaze. Absolutely spooky, but this is no time for doing impressions, said Fishlegs, terrified. Again, Kamikaze ignored him. So, Fishlegs, get out your weapons, put on your hood, and I want you to imagine you're an army. Imagine I'm an army, said Fishlegs, getting out his bow and arrows and pulling up the hood of his farsuit. Imagine I'm an army. This is crazy. Kamikaze kicked her heels and the deadly shadow swooped out from under the wooden platform and into the open air of the cavern. Fishlegs' eyes were shut and he was whispering over and over again to himself, I'm an army, I'm an army. I'm an entire super scary dragon marker army. Kamikaze urged the deadly shadow higher and higher until it was hovering just below the icy ceiling of the cavern. Beneath them, the crazy, twisted streets of Alvin's town were curiously beautiful, with flares lighting up the edges of that maze of wooden platforms and the dark shapes of the floating armada. Little figures were shooting at one another, flares in their hands, peering over the sides of the wooden street beside the great hall, looking into the sea. "Find me, good boy!" the witch was shouting. Bull guards shot out random lightning bolts that formed a hissing, spitting, live maze of death in the air to match the mazy streets below. Oh, it sounds beautiful. Calmly, whispered Kamikaze, keeping Deadly Shadow circling. We have to wait for exactly the right moment. Now dive, ordered Kamikaze. Dive, Deadly Shadow, dive! Hang on, panicked Fishlegs. You can't dive now. There's no way you'll get through those random lightning bolts. You can't do it. Attack! Ordered Kamikaze, more magnificently Valhalla-Amish than ever, shouting into Fishlegs' helmet in Valhalla-Amish' deep as well commanding voice. Even Moustache had a jaunty Valhalla-Rama effect. Dragon markers, attack! Oh, brother, whispered Fishlegs, putting his hands over his eyes. The Deadly Shadow dived. The Deadly Shadow dived. Love it. Chapter 14 is called A Little Lesson from Kamikaze in Causing Chaos and Confusion. We can have that tomorrow. See you then.